Welcome to Oklahoma Memo. My name is Ryan Welton, the founder and curator of Oklahoma Memo, your daily local news recap newsletter. It is Tuesday, November 18th, Election Day in Oklahoma, and this is a later than usual Oklahoma news update. I got to tell you, I was at the dentist this morning, had to have a crown put on, and the appointment is when the appointment is, and it took about 2.5 hours. I went to a place where they actually make the crowns there, so crown is in. I don't have to come back in 2 or 3 weeks. It was a fantastic experience. Also, a little bit under the weather. And I say all this to say it's my intention to do these at the same time, roughly every day. Yesterday, I did it as a live stream, but the problem with doing it as a live stream on YouTube is that I have to wait 24 hours for the video to get processed. Again, my name is Ryan, the founder and curator of Oklahoma Memo. The screen you see, hello, I'm down here in the left corner. The screen that you see is my website, the Oklahoma Memo. It is a Beehiiv platform newsletter. The 854 people who subscribe to this daily newsletter noticed this morning that the links inside their email did not work. They did not work because of a Cloudflare issue globally that was impacting various platforms like Beehiiv. It was impacting ChatGPT. It impacted X. It impacted a lot of things on the internet this morning. We don't know what the source of the problem was, whether it was a hack or whether it was code that was being implemented overnight and not saved for a weekend overnight. Who knows what it was? Either way, it was an inconvenience for a lot of folks. So if you got an Oklahoma Memo newsletter and the links didn't work, that's the reason why. Just a quick review. The mission of Oklahoma Memo is to reestablish a daily news habit amongst Oklahomans who have given up on a daily news habit because they're busy. You're busy, or you're skeptical of a national media that has heavy bias one way or the other, or they're not looking out for you in your small town. You know, there are so many news deserts across Oklahoma. Folks in the Panhandle, southwestern Oklahoma, western Oklahoma, north central Oklahoma, southeastern Oklahoma, far northeastern Oklahoma probably aren't getting the coverage they deserve. So maybe that's why you have strayed away from a daily news habit. My goal is to reconnect you with that by visiting every news site in the state and handpicking for you the stories that I think are most important to you, not most important to me, most important to you, and the most interesting. A little combo of both. The people who have signed up really like it, and we know that because it has an open rate of 60% per day with a click-through rate of like 12%. So if there's a business or you're an attorney or a dentist, you're somebody out there who would like to advertise, it's a pretty good place to do it. And I'll record a podcast with you, which is a content asset that you can use on your own. So let's just talk about today's edition. There were bigger stories than the election. However, there are elections in 26 of Oklahoma's 77 counties, and I thought, you know what? It is worth it to talk about elections. This story, this primer, comes from KOSU. KOSU, KGOU, Public Radio Tulsa, the 3 NPR institutions do a fantastic job under the auspices of State Impact Oklahoma. Just fantastic newsrooms. And so I shared a primer, what's at stake in these 26 county elections. And typically up here at the top is my little monologue where I sort of preview what's going to be in the newsletter, and then we get to the story. And this one's from Abigail Sietkowski at KOSU. They have a little bit of information about El Reno's mayoral race, 2 local questions being decided in Choctaw, several municipalities asking for tax increases and extensions, including voters in Carmen, 35 miles northwest of Enid. Put a comment below if you'd ever heard of Carmen. Perhaps if you live in Garfield County, you did, but otherwise, I'd never heard of Carmen. Unless they got a football team that's playing in Class A or above, I probably don't know that they exist. Except for Dewar. Love Dewar, as I grew up in Henrietta. School districts seeking varying degrees of funding. That includes Minco. That includes Newcastle. And then below that, I have my section right after the top story every day. I've got national links. And I I decided to start it with a non-Epstein story because I figured that if President Trump actually followed through with the tariff-funded dividend payments, that would actually impact your pocketbook. And I thought you might be more interested in that. President Trump says tariff-funded dividend payments for Americans will begin next year, being 2026. Then, of course, the Epstein files that he would sign to release them if it reaches his desk. The House this afternoon, Tuesday afternoon, has passed that. The Senate Senate Pro Tem John Thune says that he expects that it's possible the Senate will pass this by unanimous consent later today, meaning that it would reach the president who has vowed to sign it. And you might ask yourself, why all of a sudden is President Trump deciding that he's going to sign this bill? What has changed? Well, word on the street and reporting indicates that he has instructed the Department of Justice to scrub his name from it. So it essentially could be a series of documents that have been neutered. However, I will tell you, through good reporting, investigative reporting, journalists will be able to get past that pretty quick. The case against former FBI Director James Comey looks like it is fragile at best, as a judge ordered grand jury material to be given to Comey, citing a disturbing pattern of Department of Justice missteps. After CBS News, we learned that Kash Patel, the FBI director, his girlfriend, is being protected by FBI SWAT agents. And then the latest city on President Trump's radar is Charlotte. Now, that's very, very interesting. They have a Democrat governor. I don't know what their mayoral situation is. Typically, when President Trump goes after a city, that's because there is a black leader in place or a powerful Democrat. And in this case, it could be that he's looking at Roy Cooper. I just don't know what the situation is. Why Charlotte? But that story from NBC News. And then actor Liev Schreiber, he plays Ray Donovan on TV, hospitalized in New York. No current word on him. That was a story from yesterday. Second story, though. This one, I think we featured the Frontier yesterday. The Frontier, you can find them at readfrontier.org. And when you think about giving a little bit of money this year to a newsroom, consider the Frontier. Their investigative work, they don't post as often as other publications, but when they do, it has heavy impact. And this story is from Ari Fife. I've gotten a chance to meet Ari Fife before. When I was at News 9, I hooked her up with Tevis Hillis on a story. It was sort of a combo TV print story, and just a fantastic reporter. And this story, she's looking into the conundrum that the citizens of Watonga face. One of the things that I enjoy about doing Oklahoma Memo and curating this content for you is finding these stories that are impacting smaller towns. Watonga, I used to work at Love's. I know Watonga as being the site of the very first Love's country store way back in the day, started by Tom and Judy Love. But in this case, Watonga is hosting basically a detention center for suspected illegal immigrants. And the townsfolk are at odds morally in that, yes, the city needs revenue, but they don't necessarily feel that it's right to be just picking folks off the street to put into the Diamondback Correctional Facility Center. But that's a good read, and I encourage you to go to readfrontier.org. An easy way would be come to oklahomamemo.com and find the story there, and then go to the Frontier. That would be fantastic. I don't post the whole story here anyway. I just give you a taste, a bite, and then I send you on over. And then down here, we get into a little bit of sports. We call this Bedlam Buds. Bedlam Buds is Jeremy Cook and myself. We were high school buddies in Henrietta. We met when I moved there in 10th grade. We've been friends ever since, except that he made the less wise decision to attend that university in Stillwater, whereas I picked the University of Oklahoma. All kidding aside, I love OSU. Not as much as I love OU, but Cowboys and Sooners can blend together quite well, and that's why we call ourselves Bedlam Buds, because while Bedlam isn't played typically, Bedlam lives forever. And in this episode of Bedlam Buds, we talk about a lot of things. We talk about the Sooners win over Alabama. One of the things I caution is to not let this be fool's gold. Missouri has a better offense than Alabama, and I think it's going to be a challenge. And the Sooners, Oklahoma tends to play better on the road right now, for whatever reason. We also talked about the things that separated Oklahoma State from a first conference victory over Kansas State. And those things were turnovers. A lot of turnovers in just the worst places. And because the Cowboys defense played admirably. We also talked a little bit more about the coaching search and what he's hearing and what Jeremy can't talk about. We also talked about what was a really good weekend for the OSU wrestling team. Jeremy's pretty close to those guys, and he got us up to date on what happened at national duels with the Cowboys finishing third, which was, I think they were picked to finish fourth. They over-indexed. So that's it in sports. It's called Bedlam Buds. When you go to our YouTube channel, if you just look up Bedlam Buds, heck, if you just Google Bedlam Buds, it won't take you to a dispensary. It sounds like a name that would be a Bedlam Buds dispensary. I'm going to sneeze. Maybe I'm not. But it's not. It's, it's Jeremy and myself. We are Bedlam Buddies. Not boozing buddies, Bedlam Buddies. And then the Oklahoma Rundown. This is the thing that I think is the best service. I put it down at the bottom, so maybe it gives the other pieces of content a chance to be seen. But this Oklahoma Rundown is me going to all the sites in the state, and I note with an asterisk if there's a paywall there. But I go through these, and I try to pick the best ones in terms of importance and interest. And then I put them into an order that I think would interest you the most. And I started with a story that has been a hot topic in Oklahoma City. What people are saying, constant criticism, odd episodes, keep defining Oklahoma County Jail Trust. I said it in previous videos, but the thing that you'll always respect out of a non-doc story is the depth that their reporters will give you. I worked with Trace Savage quite a bit when I was at News 9, and his work is just thorough, man. If you're really wanting to know, one of the great things about explanatory journalism is that you not only get caught up with what's happening right now, you understand the topic much better after reading some quality journalism. Sad story from KJRH. KJRH is a really good station up in Tulsa. In terms of newsrooms, I think my former station, News on 6, is tops there. But KJRH also has Erin Christie, who is one of the best, if not the best, reporter in Tulsa. And she just does a fantastic job. I don't know that it was her on this story. We can click on this real quick and just see. But a really, really sad story. This is from Sharon Phillips in Sand Springs. A man in his 70s. It was Will Tolliver. That was the son. The father, let's see if we can find the father's name. I'm not sure, but the man killed his wife and killed all his pets before killing himself. He had a hydrocodone addiction. That just sucks. That opened up in a new tab, so maybe you didn't see that. But the headline, Son warns of hydrocodone dangers after father kills mother, pets, and then himself, from KJRH. And when there are a number of stories that the stations that are doing the same story, I try to pick the one that I think is the best of the stories, the one that's not behind a paywall, the one that is the easiest to read or has some video so that you can choose how you want to consume it. An interesting headline. I didn't read the full story. I just read the lead. DA dismisses charges against Edmund Mother while broken leg lawsuit lingers. That catches my attention. And then a story. It's easy to rush to judgment on something like this, but vandals hit New Clara Looper National Sit-In Plaza in downtown Oklahoma City. What we know from the Oklahoman, they were the only ones with a really thorough story on this last night. They're behind a paywall. I pay for the Oklahoman. So if you can find another free outlet that has this story, by all means, read it or watch it. But what these damages were somebody took a key or a coin or something and did this to that statue. And while it's awful, I could also see it being the work of miscreants who don't even know. Just ignorance. I could also see it being the work of racists. No doubt about it. I would think it would have been more than just key scratches. But what sucks is all the work that went into this and just what this represents. Clara Looper being a great woman, a great figure in Oklahoma City history. And this was just dedicated on Oklahoma Memo. I got the chance to talk with the guy who is the co-chair of this committee that actually brought this statue, this life-size piece of public art, to Oklahoma City. And his name is John Kennedy, and we talked about that. So it's really disappointing to me to hear about this. And I know that they've been in touch with the folks who created this work, learning how to touch it up. So it's not like they're going to fly somebody in and redo it. They're just going to learn how to touch it up, because it's probably not the last time it's going to happen. And by the way, I don't know what hail would do, but we get some hail here in Oklahoma City. So this isn't exactly a piece of art that we could just push into a garage somewhere. Thunder beat the Pelicans last night, 126-109. Thunder 14-1. That's pretty crazy. Barring injury, And mind you, Jalen Williams is injured. He's been out the whole year so far, and they're 14-1. Scary story from KOSU. Teenage girl stabbed 14 times by obsessed coworker saved by her brother in Potawatomi County. I was watching, I believe it was KOSU, and they're reporting this. They've got some pretty incredible audio from this where the mother called 911. A TikTok video I did just this morning. Oklahoma State Chamber backs Mississippi-style reading reforms. I know that headline seems kind of ridiculous, but actually Mississippi has made great strides in fighting illiteracy. You're not fighting literacy, you're fighting illiteracy. You're trying to back literacy. And the chamber has come out saying we need some reading reforms that really impact students at the third grade level. And just in a nutshell, what they're saying is that once you get to third grade, there needs to be a test, and a test to see how well you can read. And if you don't pass muster, if you're not able to do it well enough, you need to stay in third grade until you're able to read at a level that would make you equal to your peers in grades following. And then we just go on. There are more stories here. I don't want to just read them all here. We did get a follow-up from KOCO. One of the challenges in journalism is the follow-up. We often write stories or present stories about things that happen, and we don't follow up, and it leaves you in a position of wondering, whatever happened to X, Y, or Z? Well, in this case, we're finding out that the last victim of that Weatherford ammonia leak from last week has been released from the hospital. And in this last story from News on 6, prosecutors to dismiss adult rape by instrumentation charges against 2 Superior High School students. That is not a new thing. That has been going on for years. So, I didn't read that story thoroughly. I'll just sort of click on it here real quick. Let me just, let me see if I can open it in the same window. Probably not. Let me share this tab instead. Fantastic. Prosecutors to dismiss adult rape by instrumentation charges. This case has been going on forever. The charges happened in the fall of 2024, but I am almost certain that this actually happened quite a long while back. Reagan Ledbetter, fantastic reporter. I've known him for a long time. Good guy, great reporter. And I say Aaron Christie's one of the best, if not the best. I actually probably would say Reagan Ledbetter. You're not going to find a better. And of course, yes, News on 6 has Lori Fulbright. She's an anchor, so I'm distinguishing there. You're not going to get better than Lori Fulbright. But Reagan Ledbetter, he's going to be on national news. Just mark my words. All right, let's stop sharing this and come back here to Descript. That's kind of what we have on the landscape for today. And I know that it's late in the afternoon. When you see this, I'm going to try to do this earlier in the day. If you enjoy this, like it, follow the YouTube channel, and if you wouldn't mind, follow the podcast. And the biggest thing you can do for me is go to oklahomamemo.com and subscribe to the daily newsletter and get that in your inbox. I appreciate that you watch this. If there's a story that you want me to cover, that's especially if you're in a small town, if there's something happening in a small town that needs to be part of the memo, put it in there and I will find it by hook or by crook. All right. I appreciate you. Have a great rest of your Tuesday. For Oklahoma Memo, it's Ryan Welton. Bye.